Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Cosmic I Ching series. And this is Richard with Cosmic Human Design. And here we are continuing this revolutionary book, which I believe will change the world once people really start to absorb and process the knowledge that is in this book. This version of the I Ching, it was not channeled information, but it was written in concert with the cosmic consciousness, the invisible reality, with the help of this being the authors called the sage, which they describe as the cosmic teacher, which is available for anyone to give them help and help them learn things through consulting the I Ching. It's an actual consciousness that responds to you when you consult the I Ching. Is able to give you mind flashes and all these other things as well. Here we go with the Hexagram 35. It's truly astonishing, truly revolutionary information we're going over here, and I hope that that's really getting through to some of you guys here. Hexagram 35, progress. We have fire over the earth, the sun rising above the earth. The judgment, progressing. The true self is honored by the sage's presence so that there is help for everything he does. Cosmic progress or evolution is created through the progress of each of its parts in cooperation with each other. This cooperation takes place through recognizing the equality of all these parts, both in the visible and invisible worlds. This includes a cooperation not only among humans, but among humans and animals, humans and nature in general, and humans and the cosmic helpers. For the individual person, progress always proceeds in the direction of his fulfilling his destiny, which is to give expression to his uniqueness. Our lives are meant to follow a natural course of progress, which is defined as moving on. Going on with one's life is what makes the growth and evolution of personal awareness possible. This growth of understanding accrues to the total consciousness of the cosmos, thus becomes part of its evolution. The cosmic consciousness, so to speak, mines the experiences of each of its components in the same way that human consciousness absorbs, digests, and grows from each of the person's experiences. This kind of progressing is made impossible when a person becomes attached to the past, to his successes, failures, injuries, and traumas, and when he fixes himself as wounded, damaged, defective, or advantage, privileged, perfect, etc. In regard to mistakes, he is attached whenever he equates his mistakes with being permanently stained with guilt, an ego emotion. Progressing also halts when a person becomes attached to some future goal, so that his every waking moment, every waking thought and impulse is turned to that goal as the only thing worthy of notice, effort, and intention. The moment a person allows this kind of attachment to happen, he sullies the progress made and the success achieved. This is when the nest the person has created with the help of the helpers burns up, as it is put in line 6 of Hexagram 56, the Wanderer, meaning he has created a fate that will destroy the progress made. Progressing also describes an individual's coming into harmony with his inner truth, thus reuniting with the cosmic whole and its helping forces. Indeed, progressing is characterized not by changes that are made by external means, but by transformations performed by these helping forces in the cosmic realm. It is in this realm that the energy of harmonious consciousness transforms things. These transformations can only take place when a person's consciousness is in harmony with the cosmic whole. Receiving this hexagram without changing lines can be a simple statement that a person is making true progress in his life. The traditional text of the judgment text reads, progress. The powerful prince is honored with horses in large numbers. In a single day, he is granted audience 3 times. This picture of progress is obviously defined by the collective ego. Here we go with there being 2 meanings, prime meanings of each of the hexagrams of the I Ching, the collective ego definition and the cosmic definition. And this book is all about the cosmic definition and revealing how the I Ching has been overwritten in the past by scholars, by the Confucians, by the Taoists, by all these pencil pushers, who built their ideas that they had of their society into that overwrote the text of the I Ching in many ways. And here we have in the cosmic I Ching that being revealed to us so that we can differentiate the collective ego view, the purely human flawed view, from the cosmic view, which is invaluable to us. It refers to progress that has been made by a feudal lord on behalf of his sovereign through the use of power to subjugate the people. In exchange for this help, the sovereign has awarded him the honor of his recognition. This scenario exposes the collective ego's method of expanding its control over as many individuals as possible through the use of power. Applied to modern society, the function of the loyal feudal lord is fulfilled by the various cultural, political, and social institutions, including the family, where the father often represents the feudal lord as the sovereign of the family, inasmuch as these institutions exercise power over the individual. And as we saw in the previous hexagram, using power, all use of power creates a fate and is not in harmony with the cosmic way. Through the pressure they put on him, his loyalty to his inner truth is transferred to them. As a reward for his part in this conditioning, the father or another parental authority receives recognition and honor from the collective ego. By such means, people are trained to see themselves no longer as individuals, but as part of a group we, with the we implying loyalty to the institutions and whoever is in charge of them. This text in particular draws our attention to the feudal mindset that has predominated over the entire earth during the last 3,000 years, and its belief that progress is accomplished through the use of power, in particular the idea of human power over people and over nature. Feudalism is characterized by hierarchical notions, which are supported by heroic myths about humans' supposed place as the centerpiece of creation, and by taboos which keep these myths venerated and free of scrutiny. This mindset imagines, for the purpose of attaining public acceptance, that the invisible world is also feudally structured, that it too operates by the use of power, and that, in fact, it has authorized humans to use power to extend their dominance in all directions. It is also part of this mindset to think that everything exists to serve human purposes and glorification. This glorification is observable particularly in the highest representatives of its hierarchical system, such as in the emperor, king, and lord, or in modern society, in the president or corporate CEO. Spells connected with this hexagram have to do with the mistaken ideas that come from the feudal mindset. In particular, they are ideas that see nature without the human influence as chaos, and humans as having the role of ordering and subjugating nature, extremely popular in all the esoteric traditions. These ideas are extended to seeing the mind as superior to the body, also very popular, and therefore is meant to control it, and to the idea that the thinking parts of the brain are superior to the feeling parts, and the sense of seeing is superior to and more important than the other senses, and in particular to the inner senses. A person may receive this hexagram when he wants to pass on to another what he has been learning from the sage. He may succeed if he does not regard the other as inferior, and if he keeps aware of the extent to which the other is open to him. A true communication can last only as long as he is open and receptive. Sharing what one has learned requires feeling the quality and size of the opening the other makes, and keeping attuned to its size from moment to moment, and retreating and advancing accordingly. Remaining sensitive and free of ego prevents the pushing and pressing that prevents progress. Line 1, progressing but turned back. Being firmly correct brings success. If one meets with no confidence, one should remain calm, no mistake. This line can point to a person who has been attempting to force progress in another. He does so by pressing forward through attempting to persuade, use leverage and contrivance, instill guilt, claim that something is wrong with the other, argue, threaten, or use physical force. The consequence is that fate turns him back. Behind forcing progress is the idea that one has to make things happen, an idea that rules out any cooperation with the cosmic helpers. Shut off from their help, a person is left to his own devices. The correct way to make progress is to take away all the mistaken ideas that picture the cosmos/nature in a negative light, as stingy, punishing, arbitrary, indifferent, unloving, unkind, unfriendly, and leaving humans without help. A person may, on reading this line, make changes in his point of view only to deal with the situation at hand. Because his change is superficial and motivated by egotistical considerations, he meets with no confidence from the helpers. The cosmos will not make deals with the ego. Remaining calm means he needs to review the goal he seeks and to correct basic components in his attitude. Only then can he free himself from the fate he has created. This line can be reassuring a person that although it appears that no progress is being made in his situation, the progress is taking place on the inner plane. It is also telling him that he needs to ask for help in dispersing his doubts. Progressing but turn back can also point to the interference of the ego in a person after he has deprogrammed the phrases and ideas that have caused an illness. This interference occurs through the insertion of doubts that the helpers will help or have helped, or that the deprogramming can actually lead to healing. Being turned back can also come from expectations of the ego with regard to the time required for healing. Such watching by the ego blocks the helpers. This line tells him that the healing is underway, but that he needs to go on without watching for progress. Progress always occurs when a person is going on with his life without looking for progress and without stipulations as to how that progress should occur. The healing process does not preclude employing helpers in the form of external remedies approved by the sage through the RTCM. It is also good to ask the consciousness of the remedy for help before using it. Progressing but turned back can refer to the helper that determines the natural time of a person's death, but which has been turned back by the person's resistance to dying. As a consequence, he suffers on. To engage this helper, the person needs to free himself of the idea of death as a final end to life, or an abyss in which everything gets lost. Line 2, progressing but in sorrow, due to looking to one's ancestress. Being firmly correct brings success. Then one obtains great happiness. Here, progress has been halted because the person believes his problems can be overcome through keeping his thoughts positive. Persons with this belief overlook how hidden inner doubts act out to prevent the success they are seeking. His progress will remain halted until the person has rid himself of the underlying seed phrases and images that have caused his problems. Getting rid of these phrases and images is the meaning of being firmly correct. At the root of these seed phrases and images are two ideas that initiate each other: that there was a golden past, an Eden, which was lost by human guilt, leading to life as a veil of tears. This gives rise to the fantasy that the golden past can be recreated through positive thinking and imaging. The person's unity with the cosmic harmony is restored by his ridding himself of the following mistaken ideas. 1, the idea of guilt. 2, the idea that life is a veil of tears. 3, that problems can be resolved through positive thinking and imaging. The ancestress refers to the golden past that a person wishes now to recreate, with the idea that its values and customs were the source of happiness. The sage makes us aware, however, that gazing back into the past stops a person's progress. He may be looking back at his childhood, or on old days of romance, or on a mythical golden age that he believes needs to be revived. Holding to such fantasies stops progress. The person could make progress if he were to free the sage, which has been locked up by his views. Being firmly correct counsels him to rid himself of the spells he has put on the present by focusing on the past. The spell consists of all the person's images of a glorious past. To break the spell, it is necessary to say the inner no to his focusing on these images of the past, and to ask the helpers to destroy those images. Line 3, all are in accord. Remorse disappears. This line can inform the person receiving it that through his effort at ridding himself of the discordant ideas and beliefs that have been blocking his progress, he has achieved an accord with the cosmos. The word accord in its cosmic meaning describes a willing consent or cooperation that has been achieved between people or between a person and the cosmos. This willing consent is the opposite of the accord described by the traditional text of the judgment, where, according to the feudal tradition, the prince has secured the tranquility of the people by the force of power or awe. Another mistaken idea of an accord is the idea that opposites can be balanced by integrating them. This includes efforts to integrate competing ideas within the individual psyche, within society, or across cultures. While a balance, as between two competing powers, can be created temporarily, keeping that balance is always like walking a tightrope, because the inner accord, which is based on the attraction between complements, is lacking. Another is the common idea that mental health is the result of a balance between the two frontal lobes of the brain, implying that other parts of the brain and psyche are unimportant. A true accord occurs only when all parts of the psyche and their individual consciousnesses are equally respected and included in the process. A similar mistaken idea is that accord is to be achieved through tolerating what is wrong or by making compromises with the ego. It's not. Likewise, an accord with the cosmos cannot be achieved by engaging in ascetic practices or rituals, or by climbing arduously towards a spiritual goal. A true accord with the cosmos is achieved through a person systematically ridding himself of false seed phrases and images that separate him from the cosmic unity. Whenever he makes this effort, the helper of progress is freed to push his progress forward. Then his progress is like being carried across the ocean in a boat instead of swimming the whole way. The accord is felt as inner freedom and harmony with the cosmos. This line informs us that a true accord between people is achieved through transformations brought about by the helper of transformation. Transformations that totally change people's attitudes can be brought about by a person who asks the cosmos for help and then gets the ego in himself out of the way. Unlike changes which are brought about by leverage, transformations create conditions that endure, which is the entire purpose of consulting the I Ching, right? The 4-word phrase described in the first hexagram, Yuan Hin Li Qing, means, you know, the Qin Yuan Hin Li Qin. The Qin part means duration, means transformation, getting in accord, seeing clearly our feelings, and then acting on those, which brings about duration through transformation, because that is what's really there. Our feelings, our true feelings, getting in touch with those. That's what's in accord with the cosmos. Line 4, progressing like a hamster, perseverance brings danger. A hamster makes progress by amassing stores of food for times when food will not be available. Such storing up is appropriate for the hamster. Storing up things can also be an appropriate action for humans, but there is a danger in carrying the analogy too far. This line warns a person against falling into the spell of stored up platitudes that sound as if they can be relied upon. Progress is assured if the person remains in contact with this common sense. The danger with platitudes is the false sense of security they give. In regard to making progress, the person needs to remember that each situation is unique, and responding to it appropriately requires finding the unique answer that fits the inner truth of the situation. For this, he needs his common sense. To rely on a standardized or formulaic approach to a new situation is folly. The line can also be warning a person against relying on written knowledge as the ultimate truth, because doing so stops his progress in arriving at new understandings. All learning is but a series of handholds to ever enlarging realizations. This line is also about relying on the mistaken idea that life, fate, or destiny is a pre-written script. This idea contradicts the fact that every person is part of the ever-evolving cosmos. Due to the power of projection that is inherent in false thoughts and images, such an idea projects itself into reality in the form of a fate. Receiving this line can be a timely warning that a person is about to invoke a fate by holding to that idea. Line 5, take not gain and loss to heart, then remorse disappears. Saying the inner no brings success in the form of natural progress. This line can refer to a person who is looking back over his life or the lives of others, either in pride or remorse, by evaluating his progress in life only in terms of gain and loss. Gain and loss are words used by the ego to measure what it defines as worthwhile. Such evaluations do not correspond with the cosmic view. Increase always comes from the cosmos and the helpers when a person decreases the ego. Success refers to conditions that lead to happiness without creating remorse. Gain and loss are relative terms. Loss is the ego's term for what fate has taken away, but since fate serves the purpose of bringing a person back into harmony with the cosmos, there is actually a gain. If we look into a particular fate, we see that fate has retrieved a cosmic gift that has been appropriated or stolen by the ego because the person had acquired it through the contrivances of the ego and himself. The line can also apply to a person's looking at another, such as his partner or child, and measuring him by the standards of his expectations. He needs to firmly say the inner no to this measuring so as to free the other to make natural progress. Saying the inner no is what brings success and makes natural progress possible. Another example of false measuring is a woman who, not having had a child, sees herself as a failure due to her mistaken belief that a woman is not a woman until she has had a child. Ridding herself of this false standard will free her personal helpers to bring her inner freedom. She may also need to say the inner no to others who are projecting this belief upon her. The person may also receive this line when the ego in him or in another nags him that he has failed to take advantage of a good opportunity to influence the situation. The line counsels him not to see this as a loss because progress has been made through his remaining detached and free of intention. This line also seeks to make a person aware that the sage does not give any person the special task of representing the sage to the world. A person does this to falsely elevate himself, the game. The same applies to the person who evangelizes the I Ching to others. The sage, as the cosmic teacher, does not give people the task of evangelizing its messages, no matter how much the person wishes to see the world make progress. The sage does, however, support a person's joyfully sharing his good experiences with the I Ching, when this sharing happens in response to others' openness and need. It does not support his engaging in arguments to prove its points. Viewing each moment as an opportunity to push the I Ching on others is the work of the ambitious and goal-oriented ego. When a person finds himself doing this, he needs to say the inner no to the ego. Line 6, making progress with the horns is permissible only for the purpose of punishing one's own city. To be conscious of danger brings success, no blame. Perseverance brings humiliation. This line has been taken as a justification for the feudal lord or other authority to punish the people. It reveals the pretense of the collective ego that it has the right to control people through the use of threats and punishments, and to repress the anger in people when they rebel against being treated unjustly. In the cosmic meaning of this line, the city is a metaphor for the ego in a person's psyche that is trying to intimidate or threaten him. He needs to stand up to the intimidation of the ego with strong determination, will, and call for help from the sage and the cosmic army. When a person exercises his will in this way, the bullying ego will be seen to quickly back down, for it cannot stand up to a firm inner determination. When a person firmly rejects the ego in himself, the egos in those around him also give way. To be conscious of danger can be warning a person who seeks to make progress with another by confronting the ego directly. Any such attempt comes from the ego in himself and only causes the other to lose face, thereby arousing his hatred. True progress is made by saying the inner no to the ego in himself, his own city, and asking for help from the sage, both in his own and in the other's presence. The sage is in every person's presence. Spells connected with the use of the horns have to do with the belief that there must be a strong authority, which in turn has been authorized by something higher, law, decree, custom, a higher power, etc., to maintain order, be it over the people, the family, the partnership, or the individual. The law is supreme. God set up the order. The parent has the right to punish the children. The children belong to the parents. The individual belongs to his nation, and the nation has a right over the people. These spells prevent the individual from being able to say the inner no to those whom he regards as authorities over him. In terms of treating a health problem, this line may refer to a person's returning to conventional medical treatment upon doubting the healing process carried out by the helpers. He does this because the progress of the healing has not yet shown visibly, even though progress has actually been made on the invisible plane. It may also refer to a person who believes that the best way to handle an illness is to grab it by the horns and wrestle it down. He does not understand that the illness itself is not an enemy, but a message of fate telling him that there is a problem element within his psyche that needs to be removed. The idea of grabbing the sickness by the horns comes from his human-centered view that he can, by force, conquer the ills of the body. It is also possible that he is preventing the illness from healing through such thoughts as, I have cancer. Phrasing the problem as if the illness is a part of his nature actually gives permission to the cancer to remain. He needs to deprogram such a phrase as a spell. It is important to healing that the conscious mind regard the injured and ill bodily parts, cells, organs, etc., as brothers and sisters, and that we ask the helpers of those parts to come to their aid. We rob the body of its capabilities and shut out these helpers when we see the cells and organs as inferior or as subservient to the mind or as operating only as a mechanical system. Wow, that's incredible knowledge right there. Absolutely incredible. Oh man, it just blows me away every time I read all these hexagrams. It's just absolutely extraordinary what's going on here. All right, guys, that's it for hexagram 35, progressing. Don't forget to like and subscribe right there. I'll see you again in the next one.